Okay, each problem below has an error in the answer. Find the error and explain how to correct the mistake and correct it. So 10 times a half. Well, think about that in your mind. If you have 10 halves, you're only going to have 5 things. You're not going to have 50 things. But the way this works with the algorithm is if you do 10 times 0.5, in the algorithm you can't have any fractions. So this algorithm is only for whole numbers. So what you have to do is you have to multiply this number by 10. So you get to move the decimal over, and then it becomes 10 times 5, which is 50. But then that answer is 10 times too big. So you have to divide it by 10 again. So you move that back over, and then the answer is 5.0. And if you think about this in terms of a multiplication of fractions, it's going to be 10 times 1/2. Or let's do it this way. It's going to be 10 times 5/10. So you can see it's going to be 50, and then you're going to divide it by 10. So you do 10 times 5, which is right here, 10 times 5, and then you divide it by 10, which we did right there. So 50 divided by 10 is 5. So the decimal should be, we make this a little bit bigger, the decimal should be there. Okay, so if we look at B, go ahead and erase this so it doesn't work. For B, hopefully you can see that the thing that they did not do for B is they did not line up the decimals. And you have to line up decimals in order to line up the like values. So here, like what they're doing is they're adding thousandths to hundredths. And here they're adding tenths to hundredths. So it just doesn't work. So if you line up the decimals, 1.293, then you're actually adding like terms. So in this column, you're adding ones, and in this column, you're adding tenths, and in this column, you're adding hundredths, and in this column, you're adding thousandths, and there's no thousandths here. So then you just do 3, 11, carry the 1, 12, carry the 1, 9, 6, 4. So this one, they didn't line up the decimals. We just show that there. I'll erase it in just a second. This one also, they lined up the decimals, which was great. But they needed to add these placeholders, and they needed to think about the algorithm. So the algorithm isn't just bring down the numbers. It's like you actually have to subtract. So I can't take 7 away from 0, and I can't take 3 away from 0, and I can't take 8 away from 0, and I can't take 2. So I have to go all the way to hundreds, and I have to take this 100 and break it into 10 tens. And I have to make this 9 tens and take a 10 and break it into 10 ones. Then I leave 9 ones behind, and I break 1 1 into 10 tenths. Then I leave 9 tenths behind, and I break 1 tenth into 10 hundredths. Then I leave 9 hundredths behind, and I break 1 hundredth into 10 thousandths. So now I can do 10 minus 7 is 3, 9 minus 3 is 6, 9 minus 8 is 1, 9 minus 2 is 7, and 9 minus 6 is 3. Same thing here. They did this multiplication, but they left them as decimals, and they just brought them down. They brought the decimal down. So what you have to do for this is if you have 1.234 and you multiply it by 0.003. So the top one you have to multiply by 1,000. So I get to move that over 1, 2, 3. And the bottom one you multiply by 1,000. 1, 2, 3. And then you can go ahead and do your multiplication. You get 12, 10, 7, 3. So now, though, you have to divide it. Divide by 1,000, and then divide by 1,000 again. So 1, 2, 3, that's the first 1,000. and then 4, 5, 6, that's the second thousand, so I have to add 2 zeros. So the answer is going to be 0.00370. And for those of you that care, this is tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, 100,000ths, millionths. So it's 3,702 millions. So 3,702 millionths. Okay, E, they forgot to do that thing again where they put the 0. So 4006.30 and 34.98. Subtract. So now I can't take 8 away from 0, so I have to borrow a tenth and break it into 10 hundredths, and I do 10 minus 8 is 2. And then I can't take 9 away from 2, so I have to borrow a 1 and give it 10 tenths. So 9 minus 12 is 3. 5 minus 4 is 1. Can't take 3 away from 0. There's no 0 there, so I gotta borrow here, break that down, and then borrow here, so I get 7. So you can see it's just a little bit off, but you want to get the right answer. F again is just they didn't line up the decimals. I'll do it up here. So you're going to do 45.6 plus 32.87 plus 0.003. It's always good to add in these zeros. So I get 3, 7, 14, 8, so 78.